I'd like to call this meeting to order. Today's Tuesday, March 1st, 2016. It's 6:30 p.m. We're at the Palm Coast City Hall for the regularly scheduled meeting of the Palm Coast City Council. Would you please rise and join me in a pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Roll call, please.
Mayor Nitz.
Here.
Vice Mayor Shipley.
Here.
Councilmember DiLorenzo.
Here.
Councilmember McGuire.
Here.
Councilmember Nobile.
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you. First item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes of the February 16th council meeting and the February 23rd council workshop. I have one correction, if you please, on page 25 under Mr. Mayo's comments. Those are license plates readers, not meters. Are there any other additions, corrections, or is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve as amended or as corrected. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries without objection. Agenda item number 2, presentation from the Palm Coast Little League for grant funds secured for the renovations at Indian Trail Sports Complex. Mr. Landon.
Cindy is going to be the one to take the lead on this. Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mike picks us up, we're okay? Okay. Throw you a little curve tonight. Usually you've been accustomed to meeting with me and two other grumpy old men. Tonight I brought two pretty young ladies with me. Kim LaCarrie is our registrar and inputs 610 kids and gets them on teams. And Nancy Kuzi is our registrar person and who goes out and gets all those sponsors that we need. We'd like to thank the City Council for helping us make the improvements to Indian Trails that we have, and also the county manager. We greatly needed them, and we still need more. But we did also put in for a grant with Little League International in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. And I'd like to thank Ms. Santangelo for her help in documenting the improvements and what was needed for that grant. Pastor Greg from Parkview Church, who wrote a great letter for us, and Mayor Netz, who did also. So with that being said, we have a grant for $20,000. Most people aren't bringing you money, but we are. Thank you.
Bring the check.
I was just saying,
Bring the check.
check front and forward.
It's rubber, though.
It's rubber. Rubberish.
Come on, come on.
Come on in.
You guys are the important part of the
Yeah,
picture.
yeah. How about right there between me and the mayor? You grab an end. There you go. Turn a seat.
Okay, hold it up a little. Not that high. All right, we're gonna do a few. 1, 2, 3. Keep smiling. We have lots of cameras.
Several of us had the opportunity to attend the opening day of the Little League this past Saturday. It was really a sight to behold. 610 kids, parents, sponsors, coaches, staff from the Little League. Just really makes you proud to be part of Palm Coast. So. Agenda item number 3, second reading of an ordinance rezoning 13.95 plus or minus acres from estate to public, semi-public, and preservation for the Portuguese American Cultural Center. Mr. Reichman.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Council, this is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, providing for an amendment of the official zoning map as established in Section 2.06 of the City of Palm Coast Unified Land Development Code. This ordinance amends the official zoning map for property generally located on the west side of Old Kings Road north of Matanzas Woods Parkway, and identified as parcel identification number 261030-4001-010-0030, containing 13.95 total acres more or less from Estate 2 or EST2 to public, semi-public, or PSP, and to preservation PRS zoning districts, providing for conflict severability and providing for an effective date. Mr. Mayor, this is the second reading of a quasi-judicial matter, so if there are any ex parte communications since the first reading, which have already been disclosed.
Are there any additional ex parte communications to be disclosed? None? Seeing none? Mr. Landon.
Mayor, City Council, as your favorite city attorney indicated, this is a second reading. This is hopefully going to be the new home for our Portuguese American Club facility just north of Matanzas High School on Old Kings Road. We haven't had any additional issues or questions or comments have come up. Staff believes this is ready for final approval tonight. We have nothing further at this time unless you have questions of us.
Council, do you have any questions? Seeing none, we'll open the meeting for the public. Anyone from the public wish to be heard on agenda item number 3? Seeing no one approach the podium, we'll close the public portion of the meeting, come back to council. Additional questions, comments, or a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Shipley.
Yes.
Councilmember DiLorenzo.
Yes.
Councilmember McGuire.
Yes.
Councilmember Nobile.
Yes.
Mayor Netz.
Yes.
Mayor, this motion passes 5-0.
Very much. Congratulations. Look forward to seeing your new facility sometime. Agenda item number 4, an ordinance relating to bottle club regulations. Mr. Reichman.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is the first reading of this ordinance of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, amending the Unified Land Development Code, Section 14.02, to provide an amended definition for bottle clubs, amending the Unified Land Development Code, Section 3.0106, to prohibit bottle clubs within all zoning districts of the City of Palm Coast, Florida. This ordinance amends Section 7-1B, Hours of Operation of Chapter 7, Alcoholic Beverages, Code of Ordinances of the City of Palm Coast, to strike the reference to bottle clubs. And this ordinance provides for severability, for codification, for conflicts, and provides for an effective date. This is a legislative matter, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Landon.
Mayor, City Council, this is going to seem like a rerun because we've been actually through this process a number of times. But this issue came to staff and the community a few months ago when rumor had it that there was some people interested in potentially leasing space in some of our retail centers that wanted to open bottle club. And the other businesses expressed concerns. We looked into it. And City Council asked us to take a look at how we could possibly regulate this particular activity, and have gone through a lengthy public process, and this is the first time it's being presented to you for action. This is a first reading. So we're going to do the full presentation, and Bill is going to lead that with assistance of Commander Carmen. Bill, take it from here, please.
Good evening, council members. I'm Bill Hoover with the planning staff. In early November 2015, about a dozen Palm Coast business owners and or residents in the Flagler County Sheriff's Department expressed serious concerns about allowing bottle clubs in Palm Coast. And on November 17th, the City Council discussed the issue and approved a resolution establishing a zoning in progress for bottle club permitting. The following evening, the Planning Board recommended approval to the City Council of an ordinance enacting a 120-day moratorium. And then on December 15th, the City Council passed an ordinance that did enact the 120-day moratorium that will expire April 13th. The Planning Board, so at that point, this went back to the Planning Board for action on an ordinance. And on January 20th, the planning staff took several options to the Planning Board on how they might deal with this. The Planning Board directed staff to return with an ordinance adding bottle clubs to prohibited uses in our land development code. And the following month, on February 17th, the planning board reviewed this ordinance. And the key part that the planning board felt was that the use should actually be listed with other uses that were prohibited in the land development code because of a certain portion in section 3.0106, which provides the foundation for why uses should not be permitted in the city. And this is where it states, this is due to their potential incompatibility with current development trends in the city, their potential deleterious effects upon the public health, safety, and welfare, and the potential likelihood that they will create nuisances and significant adverse impacts upon adjacent land uses. I'm going to turn this over now to Mark Carmen.
Thank you, Bill. I know we talked about this before, but I want to reiterate the problems that Volusia County has had with this type of establishment. They've had a long history with them. And I'm just going to read off some stats real quick, because this wasn't just Volusia County. The bottle club in question was actually in a little enclave it was in unincorporated Volusia County, but it was also between Holly Hill and Daytona Beach. Two of the agencies are much larger than the Flagler County Sheriff's Office, and they had their hands full with them, and that was the three agencies cooperating with them. During the time frame of January 1st, 2013 to November 9th, 2015, the three agencies responded to 453 calls for service, which is, needless to say, quite a lot, in which 44 were fight or disturbance calls, 6 of which involved some kind of medical attention, where an ambulance had to be called or somebody was taken to the hospital. Some were using the use of weapons, and this does not include one complaint of a robbery to a person, along with several assault cases. The more serious calls were 2 homicides, one which happened in the parking lot of the club, the other which started there and spilled over into the streets of Daytona Beach, which led to shooting between 2 vehicles on Oak Ridge Bridge, which put innocents' lives in jeopardy. I think we've talked about that already, and we've told you about that and our concerns, how taxing that would be on the Flagler County Sheriff's Office alone, being a much smaller agency. But we didn't leave it alone there. We went and did a follow-up, and being that this is an area I'm familiar with and know a lot of these officers, I reached out and talked to them since the club closed, and to be frank and to be honest, these deputies and these patrolmen are relieved that they don't have to deal with this anymore. And speaking with them, I said, what do you think for us? And they said, urge your counsel. You do not want this type of business in the city of Palm Coast. So that's pretty much it.
Thank you very much. Council questions?
We actually, Mayor, had a couple of, that's it for Carmen, Mr. Carmen, but we had a few other slides for you, if you don't mind.
So far, this will be the 9th public hearing that, with most of these being advertised, and through the first 8 meetings, we've had no one from the public that has contacted anyone that I know of to not support this ordinance. And so today will be the 9th hearing. And then at the planning board's request, the city council crafted a revised definition for bottle clubs to help ensure that existing businesses and fraternal organizations would be excluded from the bottle club regulations. And at your request at the workshop last week, I did contact 2 neighboring communities, Flagler Beach and Daytona Beach, and ask them if their prohibition on bottle clubs created any problems for them, for their fraternal organizations or existing businesses and so forth. And both replied they have had no problems with that being caught up. At the February 17th meeting, the planning board did recommend that the city council approve this ordinance where bottle clubs would become a non-permitted use in the city of Palm Coast. And in 2 weeks, we'll have the final hearing on this, so when we get all done, it'll be 10 meetings that would be open to the public.
Mr. Mayor, if I can make one more comment on this, Mr. Landon. I did, like I said, I'd love to say, we did follow up, and we did, have all the ordinances I've ever been involved with the City of Palm Coast, the Internet Cafe, painkillers, anything we've done, synthetic marijuana. I've never received more interest or feedback from the business owners not wanting this. And I have not personally, and I don't think you have, Bill, one citizen coming forward and saying that they are for this. So I've never seen an outpour where it's pretty one-sided.
Thank you, Commander. That it? Council questions?
Your Honor.
Mr. McGuire.
What we're going to vote on tonight, if we vote yes, there will not be any bottle clubs. Is that an accurate statement?
Well, it takes 2 readings, just let me clarify that, but a yes vote would be to place the bottle clubs in the prohibited category in Palm Coast. So yes, the short answer to your question is yes.
Thank you.
As defined in the ordinance here.
As defined in the ordinance, yes, absolutely.
Mr. Mayor, there was also a question at the workshop, and I wanted to give Mr. Hoover credit. We worked with our office to do a little research into some of the concerns about having the unintended consequences. And one thing we wanted to make clear for this council and for those people that are listening to this particular agenda item is that there is a separate type of license just for bottle clubs, and there is a distinct and separate state retail beverage license for lodges and other clubs. And you'll see in our definition that what is prohibited is just commercial establishments licensed by the states as bottle clubs, as contrasted to the second part of our definition, which specifically says that that does not prohibit the other types of uses that we don't want to capture in this definition.
Thank you. Council questions? Seeing none, I'll open the meeting from the public. Anyone from the public wish to be heard on agenda item number 4? Seeing no one approach the podium, we'll close the public portion of the meeting. Go back to council. Additional questions, comments, or a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Shipley.
Yes.
Councilmember DiLorenzo.
Yes.
Councilmember McGuire.
Yes.
Councilmember Nobile.
Yes.
Mayor Nets.
Yes.
Mayor, this motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much. Agenda item number 5, presentation of certificates to the graduating students of the City of Palm Coast Citizens Academy class. Mr. Landon, you want to hand this over to Cindy?
Cindy is going to, with your assistance, recognize.
You can hobble down there.
Wait for the mayor to get down.
We built that ramp just for your scooter.
Mayor Nets is going to join me in presenting the certificates, and I just want to say that it has been my honor to help coordinate the 36th graduating class of the Citizens Academy. We had a very large group this time, and they had the special distinction of being the first class to go through since City Hall opened. So their tour was of City Hall, which was nice. And we had 2 of our meetings here at City Hall. They also visited the Community Center, Water Treatment Plant 3, and Fire Station 25. Met all of the directors of our departments, heard from all of you elected officials, and I think learned a lot about the city. And so what I'm going to do, graduates, is I'm going to call your name when you come up for your certificate. Then we'd like you to just gather here in the front, and then when everybody has graduated, we're going to have all of the council members come down for a group photo. All right. Sharon Acosta. Diana Barton. Mark Bellapianta. Kenneth Bowd. Bob Collins. Francis Christian. Ronald Christian. Esther de la Lastra. Robert de Maria. Mirna Fontanez. Our only native Floridian in the group, Denise Garcia. Ken Gistad. Helen Gorman. Betty Ha. Patricia Hennigan. Sorry about that. Tried to mangle that one. Getting quite the crowd here. Terry Hewitt. Travis Kaufman. Gary Lesser. I think Gary is on a cruise. We won't feel sorry for him. Robert McDonald. John Medeiros. Jose Pino. Oops, hitting the mic. Tammy Selleck. David Sullivan. Conrad TJ. Barb Van Zuden. These Van Zudens aren't here. So I guess Mike's not here either. Miguel Vasquez. Trudy Weiss. John Williams. Michael Wisher. A big, strong class of Palm Coast ambassadors and graduates.
This live, so if you'll kind of double up, triple up, and counsel, you can join us. Small in the front.
Cindy, you know, now he's coming to your house Monday nights. I'm going.
Sounds fun.
36th graduating class.
Wow, and they're getting bigger and bigger.
Impressive. Certainly glad that our citizens continue to take this opportunity to learn more about the city and how it functions. This brings us to the consent agenda. There's two items, 6 and 7. I'd like to offer the opportunity to the public, if they wish to speak on either of these items, or both of them, before City Council considers them as one group. Anyone like to speak on agenda items 6 or 7? Seeing no one approach the podium, we'll close the public portion, meeting back to council. Council, is there a motion to approve, or would anyone like to remove one of the items for separate consideration?
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries without objection. This brings us to the public participation portion of the meeting. This is the opportunity for the public to speak on any item not on today's agenda. Please come up to the podium, give us your name, and please limit your contribution to 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Gary Owens, 14 Boxwood Lane, Palm Coast. Wanted to bring up a few things regarding the golf course, Palm Harbor. I know it's been in the paper, you're discussing it. I think one of the things, because I play at quite a few of the different courses, and for the number of rounds that have been played at that course, for the city to be $300,000 or more in the hole and have to do renovations on bunkers and all, I think is a waste of money. And I think that really there should be a forensic audit. I don't think that the audit would be that much to do for the books over the last few years on what has happened here. Where is the money? There should be money coming back to the city and to the taxpayers. So anyway, that's number one as far as that. Number two, you want to spend now, you're talking, I think, about $175,000, $200,000 on to repair the bunkers there. Again, I don't know whether that's, I mean, they need it. They really do need it. But perhaps you can find another alternative, and that brings me up to what some other courses are doing. Flagler. I mean, what did they do? They leased out their facility for, I don't know what the dollar amount was. It $1 a year, or $100 or $1,000? I know that there are individuals here that are willing to reach out and run that place, take it off your hands. You don't have to spend $1 to take care of it. The city will have an asset, a proud asset for a lot of the people that would be willing to run it. And I think that's what you should do, is take a look at that type of opportunity. I don't want to see it become a 9-hole course and nobody in the town, none of the golfers here and people that play there a lot, they don't want to see a 9-hole course. They want an 18-hole course. And you put the money into it years ago to do it. Don't put any more in, though. Let somebody else do it and reap the benefits from that, and the city has an asset. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker.
I hope after this I don't have to give back my shirt. Robert McDonald, 38 Richfield Lane, Palm Coast. Good evening. I've been a renter since October of 2015, which means that I'm probably one of about 20% of the people who live in the city of Palm Coast. The city codes were written to keep the city the way it is now. When they wrote the codes, they were written to protect all of the residents, including rentals. The problem is that as a renter, if there's a resident who has a complaint, he or she can file that complaint anonymously, and the city has to act on it, even though it may be frivolous to the code officials. The problem that I have is that the property maintenance company, as well as the landlord, all get notified in writing. Now, I've been written up twice in the same month. According to the Code Enforcement Office, they check on all violations depending upon the severity. Abandoned properties, overgrown grass or property, abandoned cars, and even garbage cans in driveways. On Wednesday, I was written up for a garbage can that's been in my driveway for 4 months. I observed multiple houses in the area with the same violation. I would like the City Council to change the ordinance requiring a resident who wants to file a complaint that they have to do it in writing and not be allowed to do it anonymously. Even though I'm not an owner, we as rentals, we deserve the same rights. I went to the code office on Friday, and I asked them to tell me how many code violations were written on the same day that I got mine. According to the code office today, when I went back, they told me that 8 violations were written. Mine, my neighbor, and 6 other houses in the whole R section. Miraculously, yesterday, the code official went out and wrote 17 violations in one day, but he could only write 6 of them on Wednesday. In closing, I would like to know how the council feels about this, because the rules have to get changed. You have to give rentals the same rights and privileges that you give to homeowners, because it's just not fair. Because I've talked to the code officials, I've talked to other people in the city. I have a problem because come October, when my lease is up, my landlord's going to look at my record and say, yeah, we got 2 violations from this family in the same month. You know what I
15
got 'em
seconds,
for?
sir.
Excuse me?
15 seconds.
I got the first code violation because I had a tarp in my driveway because I have an old vehicle that leaks gas, and I got the second violation because I have a garbage can. That's insanity. I need your help, guys.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Good evening. ComEd TJ, Smith Trail. I think we should take some concern about the litter on the streets in the town. I mean, Eye Appeal is what's selling this place. Whether we educate the children in school, whether we have commercials on TV, but I police the 2-block area on either side of my house on a daily basis. And either tell McDonald to make something that isn't so offensive, or the bush cans, but I'd like to see some attention about the litter on the streets. I mean, there's more streets with litter than there are that hasn't litter, and the DPW, they're on it all the time, and you can't keep up with it. These people have this mindset where anything from a cigarette butt out the window to I found an insulated cement safe out of a truck the other day by the weir in my street. I mean, obviously I threw it away, but, you know, there's got to be some attention to make these people realize that this is our town. You know, it isn't a New Jersey dump. So I'd really appreciate if we could figure out some way of addressing the issue that perhaps the Boy Scouts take it upon themselves to police areas, but I don't know what's legal and what's insured and how you deal with, but it's paranoia after terrorism that you see stuff laying there that shouldn't be there. You don't know whether to touch it or not touch it. So last night, the fire marshal talked about the fact that they found pipe bombs in one area on Seminole. So, you know, residents are a little leery, and when people see me out there picking up the garbage, they say, gee, that's a nice thing to do, but I haven't seen any of them out there picking it up. And I don't know why these people feel that they should throw it out unless their wife doesn't want them to be eating McDonald's and they chuck it on the way home for the cholesterol count. But, you know, anyway, I like to make mention of it, and I appreciate any help you could give me. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
My name is Ralph Lightfoot. I live at 38 Fenwick Lane in the F section. 2 things. Number one, I would like to thank, I guess it's the code enforcement. I had the lot next to me. I called them up about a year ago and told them that it needed to be cut back, the brush needed to be cut back. And that was done last week. They did a great job, so I appreciate that. The other thing is in reference to the golf course. Whatever decision you guys make, please keep in mind that the golf course is finally in a state where it's playable. It's in really great shape, and we've already put a lot of money into it, and we don't want to make a decision where it will revert back to where it's not playable. Thanks.
Thank you. Next speaker. Sound like there's some golfers in the audience.
My name is Dave Sullivan. I live at 99 Front Street. And first, I just wanted to thank for the Citizens Academy. I think we all had, it was really an enjoyable experience, and we picked up a lot of knowledge. I've been here a long time. I still pick up knowledge every time I go to something like this. And a lot of times people complain, and they haven't really understood what the process is. But a golf course, I have to say something about the golf course. I was sitting there. I am a member of the Palm Coast Golf Club. It's an amenity for the city, and I don't think Palm Coast is Palm Coast without that golf course right in the heart of the city. Real estate values and resulting decrease in taxes are something to think about. If the golf course goes away, the taxes you're going to collect from the houses in that area are going to go down. You're not going to have as much income coming in. We've invested millions of dollars. I think the number I heard was $5.5 million to put that golf course back in operation. And it's not smart to throw away millions of dollars by closing the golf course down. It's not good to keep changing management of a golf course, important for continuity of the people who work there. We're not talking about a building, we're talking about grass and greens. It's a real knowledgeable kind of job, so be careful about jumping from one group of people to another if you're going to make that golf course get any better. The land the course is on will not work well as either a residential or business real estate developments because of the way it sits there in between existing houses. Once we let the course go, it will almost be impossible to ever bring it back. And finally, Canfields is a nice place to eat. It has good food. It's a nice amenity there. It's handy. I see a lot of all of you who have been there. So I'd ask golfers in Palm Coast. I live in Grand Haven, and I play there too. But we've got to support that golf course because I think Palm Coast will not be Palm Coast without that golf course running through the middle of the city.
Thank you.
Hi, Council. I'm Anthony Barber from 6 Cooper Lane. I came to Palm Coast in 1990, and when it was nothing. I remember my brother-in-law, my wife's son, brother, caddied for Nancy Lopez when she was promoting the golf course. I have 2 houses in the C-section there. I rent on Clubhouse Drive and Casper when you come in. We've been looking at this piece of property on the corner there that's been like an eyesore for maybe 25 years. And, you know, we called the city, a number of people in the area. I talked to Heidi Shepley about it. We were at a historic meeting at one point, and I have to say the next day she came over to that area and cleaned up what had to be cleaned up, and I appreciate that. But, you know, since then I've seen nothing there. Every time I go out to buy the paper, I'll walk there, pick up everything. People look at me like I'm crazy, but I pack a pile there and just try to keep that nice because it is the entranceway where you come into our area there. And I remember when I first came to Palm Coast here, there was a sign out on A1A. It was a homemade sign. I bought it for ITT that said Palm Coast 8 miles in. And I came down Old Kings Road, and Old Kings Road was probably about as big as a driveway with all trees hanging over it and everything. I came down to where McDonald's is there, and there was just a trailer there. ITT was selling property there. And, you know, that's an area, the old section there, where, I mean, it's the history of Palm Coast. And everybody is trying to ignore it from what I see. And, I mean, there's people in the area. We still have a group that doesn't take care of their property, but we try to do what we have to do. I mean, on one of my homes, I just put a lot of money into it, and I was telling my 2 sons, the reason why I did that is because it's on the golf course, and I feel like it would be worth it. And then when you hear, you know, that they want to bring it down to a 9-hole golf course, they want to get rid of the back end or whatever, I think the most beautiful thing when you drive down Clubhouse Drive is when you look over there and you see that golf course. It's just like a big pick-me-up, you know, for the area. And to see that go would be a real, shame. It is the most historic part of Palm Coast. It was the beginning of the beginning. I mean, I think I live in, my house is 140. But anyway, I just think that, the code enforcer comes around and kind of tags the wrong people there. On one of my houses, I had a palm thing come out of the palm tree. I keep my properties basically pretty nice, I think. There was one palm thing on the ground, and he wrote me up. I'm trying to figure out when he drives into that area, if he closes his eyes or what does he do? Because, I mean, it's so obvious that this property's been like that for 25 years. But,
15 seconds, sir.
I'm just concerned about that area that, I mean, it's the historic area of Palm Coast, and it should be kept that way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nick?
Good evening, Mayor Nets and City Council. My name is Raymond Anthony Crown. I live at 90 Flamingo Drive. We bought the house there when the Palm Coast was incorporated in 1999 and have lived there for 17 years. I would like to address the white elephant in Palm Coast, which is Holland Park. The pictures I have here that have John Netz, Bill McGuire, Heidi Shipley, Jason DiLorenzo, and Stephen Noble's name on it, well, the sign says $4,280,026. This park needed no renovations. There was nothing wrong with it at all. And Mayor Netz has informed me that the estimate is now $5.5 million. And the park's been closed well over a year and is at least a year from being completed. It looks worse now than it ever did in its life. I came to Palm Coast from Pompano Beach, Florida, next to Fort Lauderdale. They have 104,662 people there, yet they have 46 parks. Palm Coast has 90,000 people, and we only have 10 parks. Why is that? You could have built an entire new park for $5.5 million. You could have gave Stuart Marchman Act $2 million for their mental health jail diversion program, which is now defunct due to lack of funds available. You could have gave the Flagler County Sheriff's Office $2.5 million to deputize Homeland Security officers to create an anti-terror task force at the Flagler County Sheriff's Office. Since it's on the internet that ISIS is targeting Palm Coast because of all the retired veterans that live here. And I live right by the VFW. My next door neighbor for 17 years is a World War II veteran. Furthermore, why did not you build a homeless shelter in Palm Coast? Why do I have to build a homeless shelter? Because today I raised $250,000 for the Wayne Lewis Shelter and Church, and I only need $750,000 more dollars, and God will give it to me, and I would like the city of Palm Coast to give me and donate the land for me to build it on. Thank you for your time. God bless you and your families. I know you do a difficult job, and you don't get paid enough, and that's just a real shame. God bless you all.
Thank you. Next speaker. The city clerk.
There's something dropped in your box there.
Oh, my goodness.
Jack Tyler, Palm Coast. I was reading in the paper there are approximately 7,000 people between the ages of 18 and 45 that have no medical insurance. Now, we all know that there are people in Palm Coast that are working 2 jobs, or the men are working 2 jobs and the women go out to work just to make ends meet. Now, we all know that there is a poverty level in Palm Coast. We're not all rich. We're not all out there making a bundle of money. And when you say that there are people that our economy is up because our unemployment is down, now I ask, you don't have to answer it, but I ask anyway, how many of these people lost good jobs, big jobs, and are now on part-time work? Now, they're not considered unemployed? How many people just give up looking for a job and they fall off the crack? Now, I know you're wondering why I'm saying this. I'm saying this because we have an albatross around our neck. And that albatross is the tennis courts and the golf course. The people that don't have enough money or are struggling, they can't afford to play golf. But you tax them anyway. They are being taxed. You say, somebody, well, it's only $2 a year. $2 can buy a man a Band-Aid, or you buy him a cup of coffee. So we've been with this albatross, what, 10 years? I mean, if you were in a private business, you'd have been out, you'd have been gone already. You'd have been into bankruptcy. But why do we have to support the people of Palm Coast? Why do we have to support a minority of people that have the money, that have the time, and for their pleasures? No. I've been doing this, I've been saying this against the golf courses for almost 10 years now. I don't see any profit in it. I don't see anything for the people of Palm Coast. I don't expect a guy from Matanza to come down and go into the tennis courts and spend $200 when he can just about buy a pair of shoes. And I don't expect a guy to come from the Z section to the anywhere, right, where you have to pay to get in. They talk about, well, you know, the city takes care of the bike paths and they take care of the parks and
15 seconds, Jack.
okay, but these things are free. If I wanted to go to the park, what, I can walk in. If I wanted to play tennis, it's got to cost me. So let's get rid of the albatross and let's quit when we're ahead.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
Hello, my name is Ronnie Burris, and I don't live in Palm Coast, but I represent the public employees of Palm Coast. I represent Public Works, and I represent Public Utilities. I am the field rep of Local 630 and out of Jacksonville. And I just want to say thank you for allowing me to speak tonight, but I want to bring something up to each one of you that, you know, whether it's you as Mr. Landon, as the city manager, as each one of you as the city council or the mayor, or whatever position, these people, these public employees deserve respect. They deserve to make a decent living. They deserve to be treated like human beings, and they deserve to be treated like you want to be treated. You know, there's a story that I want to share with you real quick that a gentleman walked into NASA, and there was a janitor there, and he was mopping the floor. And the guy asked the janitor, he says, "What do you do here?" He said, "I'm the janitor. I'm helping send a man to the moon." And the guy laughed and said, "What do you mean you're helping send a man to the moon? All you're doing is mopping the floor." He said, "No, if it wasn't for me, this building wouldn't be clean, this equipment wouldn't be clean, and this place wouldn't be presentable for them to come into to work every day and to be able to send that man to the moon." It takes a team. It takes everybody, from Mr. Landon all the way down to the janitor. It takes a team. And I believe in that, and I hope you believe in that. And I just want to say thank you again for that and having the opportunity to speak. And I look forward to working with all of you and seeing all of you on a more frequent basis. And I look forward to working with you, Mr. Landon. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
Louis McCarthy, Palm Coast. You know, after hearing the last gentleman speak, I have been here since 1994. And I can tell you this, that the people who work for Palm Coast do a magnanimous job. They work, I've seen things happen where contractors come in and then a couple of months later they got to dig up. I never see where city workers do something and a couple of months later they have to dig up. When they put it down, it's down and it's done right. And they do it and they do it well. And my hat's off to them. Every single one of them are intermingled. They all help each other in some way or another. And they deserve the backing of the citizens of this city. Please back them, because without them, we can go under. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hi, my name is Bill Lynch. I live here in Palm Coast. I live on Cooper Lane, and I've been here for a few years, and I hear a lot of things and read a lot of things and this and that. I would like to know if this council would be prepared at a forthcoming meeting to present to this community your business plan and operating plan for Palm Harbor Golf Course. I've heard a lot of things, you know, been breaking up into segments and articles here and there and everything else, but I really do not have a firm understanding of where you've been, where you are today, what you plan to do, and what the financials are on that golf course, including development, the maintenance, and if you will, the outsourcing of the management of that golf course. But a full and comprehensive picture of where you're going with your plan. We'd like to see that on an agenda, and you could present it to us as however fit you feel would be appropriate. Thanks.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hi, my name is Donna Flieger from 6 Cooper Court. My husband and I have been coming down to the Palm Coast area for over 30 years, and probably our whole life been working for retirement to come here. We finally got our dream 2 years ago, and we live on the 11th hole. We love it there. That's one of our main reasons for moving to Palm Coast. I had a list, and I think I drove my husband crazy. No fences, no overline wires, pool, double block construction on a golf course, and the cart trail on the other side. He got it all. Thank you, honey. But to hear that it might be split up does concern me. We brought down friends from Atlanta and from the Northeast. They love Palm Coast. They've bought property here. They're planning on building. They never knew this place existed. They love it. So part of it is the golfing range, part of it is the tennis courts, a lot of it is the beach. And with the new public center, we appreciate that. And I want to say also to your grounds crews, they are awesome. They work really hard. I take water with me when I go out. I'll pass out water to the crews when they're working in the summertime. And they do work very hard. Consider them maybe for the golf course, to be in charge of the golf course. They work hard. Maybe keeping it in-house would save money. As Bill mentioned, having a business plan going forward for that might show some areas for improvement. But thank you very much for all the work you do. It's become a very pretty town, and we appreciate it.
Thank you. Next speaker. Next speaker. Next speaker.
Good evening, George Mayo, Palm Coast. Coming from the workshop of last week, I'm wondering if anybody was able to, and hoping somebody was able to meet with Kevin Guthrie, the emergency services manager, before he left and if he was able to provide us any insight towards the radio solution and problems that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hi, my name's Diana Barton. I'm new to Palm Coast. I've been here about 8 months now, and I wanted to thank everyone for the citizens group that we attended. It was awesome, and recommend it to everybody in the community to do. But I also wanted to just bring attention to the litter in the community. I'd like to encourage all the citizens of Palm Coast to step out their door, walk a block, pick up their trash. I do it every week. I get the people from Palm Coast coming by in their trucks, tooting their horn, waving to me. I get citizens waving to me all the time. But I think if everyone in the community took 5 minutes, that's all it takes me, 5 minutes. I do 3 blocks in my neighborhood. I live on Richfield Place. My sister lives over on Red Mill. She walks from her house to my house, which is about 4 blocks, and she picks up a trash load and drops it in my trash can every day. So I just like to, recommend to the citizens of Palm Coast, let's all work together, get our community clean. It takes 5 minutes of your time on a beautiful sunny day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker. Next speaker. Seeing no one approach the podium, we'll close the public portion meeting. Come back to council. But first, let's see if we can address some of the issues that were raised this evening. You've clearly heard 3 or 4 different opinions about the Palm Harbor Golf Course. We had a presentation at our workshop on the history of it, and Mr. Landon, we might want to do that for the public. Let me assure you that the golf course is an issue of concern for City Council. We're not sure, I'm not sure, that there's any one single solution. There probably are multiple issues that could be addressed that might reduce the deficit. The question for City Council at some point is this an amenity that deserves city support, or should it be strictly a enterprise fund, and if it doesn't pay for itself, shut it down? That's an extreme option. Mr. McGuire has raised the issue. Well, okay, if you shut it down, the costs don't go away. You still have to maintain it, and the impact on the neighborhood is significant, as we've seen in other areas. All I can tell you is that City Council, city staff is looking at this very closely. We do monthly audits. We send a team in there once a month to do audits. We're looking at options. We'd like to make it better, to be continued. But Mr. Landon, I think it might be interesting at a public meeting to do the history of why and how come the city acquired it.
We can do that.
The issue of code enforcement, anonymity or not, that was something that City Council discussed several months ago. There was concern that if the city required people to give their names if they made a complaint, it might open the door to inter-neighbor harassment, and we did modify our procedures so that there can be anonymous complaints. And we heard tonight that some folks don't like anonymous complaints. So this is one of those issues that City Council took some action, said let's look at it, let's see what the consequences are. It's something that we will continue to look at. The issue of litter. Mr. Favreau spoke to me several weeks ago. His suggestion was that we try to get the state to take a more active position with NCSA's non-commercial spot announcement on television or radio or so on and so forth. I did actually, at his suggestion, raise the issue at a Flagler County League of Cities meeting to see if there was something that we could do as a group of 5 cities. Certainly, litter is an issue, and for those of you who do pick up your neighborhood, thank you. Thank you very much. And if we could just get, well, first, if we get people to stop littering, you wouldn't have to do it. Or if we could get more people to assist in the cleanup, that would be a big, big plus. It amazes me that somebody can roll down their window and throw a hamburger wrapper or a styrofoam container out the window when they're probably 5 minutes away from home, and in their home hopefully in their garage is a garbage can where they could deposit it without making a mess. It's something that distresses me. We are proud of our city, proud of the way it looks, and everybody who litters does just a little something to undermine that, so
Mayor, may I?
please.
Last week at workshop, we actually had a brief discussion about litter, because one thing that happens during the winter months, we do less mowing. And with the mowing comes the picking up of the litter. So with less mowing, less picking up of the litter. So it's more evident during the winter months. However, there's multiple problems that we've experienced, and we've had several people over the years come and speak to us about it, and also tell us about how they pick up in their neighborhood. Bus stops and people throwing out trash just kind of out of their cars while they're waiting at bus stops. There seems to be that's one of the collection areas that we have trouble with. And one thing we briefly discussed last week was also our recycling containers that we use are open. So in the windy months, stuff blows out of them and gets, blows down the street. So that's not something we can address immediately, but we do have a contract with coming up for that later on next year. So that'll be something that we'll also look into and see if there's a cost-effective method to having a closed container for recycling that may reduce some of that issue during the breezy months that we have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, may I? Please. One thing I would like to see, I'm one of those people who walks around my neighborhood with the bag over my shoulder and the little picker thing. I would like to see if we could put together some kind of an organized effort, like adopt a community, adopt a road. I don't think that's, where you get people to actually participate in cleaning up the streets. What I hope for something like that to do is now make it a little bit more personal to the person who's about to throw something out. That they see those little signs that say this was adopted by, the Boy Scouts or something like that, and maybe they think about it, and they're not sitting there going, well, the city will clean it up, boom, and just, so something a little bit more organized, if we could look into that and see.
If I may, and this is one of those that's trying to get the word out, we actually have Adopt a Street, Adopt a Median, and we do put out some signs. You'll see in a median in residential areas where it will say, adopted by a certain family.
See that. Good.
And we actually have a brochure and things. So we probably need to get that word out more this time of year, so people are aware of the opportunities to help, and we'll put some extra effort into that.
Super.
To the issue that was raised by the gentleman from Local 630, I have a suggestion. It's well known in political circles that when people are happy, they tend not to speak. When they're unhappy, they speak loudly and longly. We do have a fine group of city employees in every department, in every aspect of the work. Folks, the request from me to you, when you see somebody rehabilitating a swale, when you see somebody doing work on behalf of the city, when you see them in that city uniform, in that city vehicle, every once in a while, if you get the opportunity, just say thank you. A little bit of appreciation goes a long way. The last issue that was raised at our workshop, we did have a farewell, if you will, from the emergency director from Flagler County, who talked a little bit about the upcoming issue of the 800 megahertz radio system. The issue, contrary to what you may have read, Palm Coast does not want to create its own system. We want to be part of a comprehensive county-wide system. All cities, all agencies, and of course the county. County has told us that their plans are to replace the existing system with a new system in 2020 or 2021. They have assured us the existing system will remain functional until that time. That's not the issue. The issue for me is, what are the costs associated with the new system? Will the new system have better coverage than the existing system? Will the new system require radio towers to be installed within the city of Palm Coast? If you recall, several months ago, the county had an issue. I believe they wanted to install 3 new radio towers in the county. 1 was approved, 2 were turned down by the county commission because there was citizen opposition. We, the city of Palm Coast, need to begin planning now, but we need answers to know what we're planning for. We, in the city of Palm Coast, have a revolving 5- and 10-year capital improvement plan. Our goal is to put money aside each year for anticipated expenses. But you pay cash and you don't pay interest on borrowing money. But in order to do that, you need to know what the anticipated costs are. I've sent a letter to the chairman of the county commission outlining these and other questions and suggesting that the time is now for the county commission and the city councils of the 5 cities in Flagler County to sit down jointly and see if we can get answers to these questions. The better we can plan for the future, the better our budgeting is going to be and the less the impact on the taxpayers is going to be. Council, did I miss anything? I think that was pretty much everything.
Holland Park.
Pardon? Holland Park. Gentleman said that it never needed any kind of work at all. Gee, I kind of remember a large number of residents with a very much different opinion. Not just the dog park, but all aspects of the park. It was old, it was tired, it did not meet any of the American with Disability Act requirements. There was no choice but to renovate that park. There were erosion issues, there were irrigation issues, there were a whole host of issues. You could not, in good conscience in my mind, abandon Holland Park in the center of the historic center of our city and go build a park somewhere else. That just wouldn't make sense to me. So, all that being said,
When is it going to be finished now?
discussion by city council of matters not on the agenda. Mr. McGuire, why don't we start with you, sir?
Mr. Landon, are we going to talk at a workshop soon about the use of heavy fire equipment to go out on EMT calls and what we're going to do to correct that?
Yeah, I believe it is scheduled in March, either next or the last workshop. But yes, it is scheduled on your calendar.
Thank you. That's all, Your Honor.
Mr. Nabil.
A couple of things, Mr. Mayor. First, this was an unusually high call week. I got a lot of phone calls this week, and they were all about regards to code enforcement and issues with code violations and phone calls from neighbors who are staying anonymous and whatnot. And I spoke with all of them, and I think we're all okay with that scenario. One thing that popped out at me I'd like to see addressed is messaging. A lot of them said to me that some of the, when the code enforcement came through, for instance, their garbage pail was in front of the garage, garbage pail in front of the garage. And they were asked to put it, or given a warning. Then they looked around and there were other people, who didn't have it. And I don't know how true this is all hearsay. But the messaging is, well, we don't drive around and look for that because it's not important. That's not a good message to someone you've just given a warning to that says, well, we don't care about that person because it's really not something that's... Now, I don't know, again, I'm just giving you, I'm just regurgitating what the citizenry has told me. But if that is true, we need to address that and say, look, you know what, all code is important. If you're violating, you're violating, and it has to be rectified. And the way to fix it is bring the ordinance to the council and say, I'd like to see that changed, and then we can decide from that point of view. The second thing I just want to say is about Palm Harbor. I don't think, my perspective on Palm Harbor is this, is we want to keep it a high-end golf course. We want it to remain in the community where it is. We want it to be better than it is. But as a city, we don't want to be responsible for a golf course. And I'm speaking for myself. I'm not speaking for anyone else. As a city, we don't want to be responsible for a golf course, so we want to get some professionals involved in that and let them take it over. So from my perspective, we're not looking to reduce the service or remove it or make it less than it is. We want it to flourish and be better, and we don't want another closed golf course by any means. But we'd like to see someone else in the business take over that risk that is involved in that. So I just wanted to say that. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Di Lorenzo.
Mr. Landon, I think that gentleman was looking for a time frame for when Holland Park will be completed, so if you have.
I'll comment
go
on
through that? Okay.
update on capital projects.
Kipley.
I'd just like to say that along with the, sorry, my throat is bad, along with the time frame he'll give you, if you'd want to meet with me, and I can show you some of the plans for Holland Park. They walked me through it when I went in there, and the plans are amazing, and it's completely different than what it used to be, and it's good for kids of all ages. It's going to be something really great over there. Well, once I show you the plans, we can look at all that. Okay. The only other thing I have to say is with code enforcement, I did drive through the streets of where Mr. McDonald got the code enforcement, and I think one of the issues is that he received one, and there are many code enforcements on those 3 streets that I looked at that he had walked down to look at, and I think they want consistency of, and I think we spoke about that last time too, just if they get a call to go to one place and deal with one code enforcement, that they look at that whole street while they're on there. And hopefully they're doing that. Sometimes I guess they don't do it, but hopefully that message got out, and they'll keep on doing that. And that's it.
Discussion by city attorney of matters not on the agenda.
Nothing further, Mr. Mayor.
Discussion by city manager of matters not on the agenda.
Yeah, first of all, address a little bit of the code issue. Yes, the code officers, the policy is that when they do get a complaint, that they don't address this at one house, that they attempt to address that neighborhood. Oftentimes, other people don't know who got the notice and who did not. The gentleman talked about 17 and 8, so there was 25 issued in just that one neighborhood, largely as a result of 1 or 2 complaints. To just give an example, more times than not, by far, majority of the times when I hear that, well, I got a warning, but my neighbor didn't, I ask, and yes, the neighbor did also. So there's always, but lots of times people do not know, and it doesn't mean we're not working the case. So always keep that in mind. There's usually another side to these stories. And it's one of those that we're either too tough or not tough enough, depending on the side, but you all hear that. On our capital projects, the major ones right now, the wastewater treatment plant, number 2, I signed that contract today, so they've got all their documents, and with my signature, last one on the contract, they will now get a notice to proceed sometime very soon, so that one is getting kicked off. The street projects, in particular Palm Harbor Parkway, which is one that we are pushing hard. They are scheduled to have that wrapped up this month, towards the end of this month. Not wrapped up, but at least open so that the traffic can use it again and we don't have to have the detour any longer. The county projects, or project of the interchange, is moving along nicely, I understand, and Palm Harbor should be open about the same time as planned. in a few months, the city project that the county is managing for us, and that is the extension of Old Kings Road, is also on schedule, and it is scheduled to open up a little later this summer, June, July timeframe, I believe. If you go out there, you're seeing good progress, but they're still in that slow stage of underground work, and they're actually having to reduce Old Kings Road for a couple of days to just one lane and have a flagman out there. So
Yeah, can we make sure we get that out? I know Flagler County sent out a notice on that,
Yeah.
but our communication.
I'm seeing, yes, that we're trying to get that word out too, and got that today, and we'll try to forward that out. Holland Park, it was originally scheduled to be completed in March, in other words, this month. For a variety of delays, we're scheduled now, and our team has met with the contractor. They're very confident they'll have that completed in May. And it's interesting, you know, we heard, I got an email about, well, the Wadsworth Park doesn't have any irrigation, and so it turns to dirt. That's one of the reasons for this is the dog park. But this is going to have a nice playground for kids. It's going to have a lot of upgrades with basketball, picnic areas. It is a wide variety of amenities. It's ugly now. You know, the gentleman's right, it looks horrible, but every construction site out there does. It's when it starts coming together, and you're going to start seeing buildings are already going up, concrete being poured, sod laid. That's when it's going to really start coming together, and that will happen in the next couple of months. Mayor, that's all I had for tonight.
Very much. Madam Vice Mayor?
Move to adjourn.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much for your participation.
Move to adjourn.